All right, hi there, folks. Simon here. Welcome to the 2023 Dragon Cup Tag Tournament. This is a match between Abyss and alion02. alion02, the current tag champion and rank number one in the world right now, and Abyss, rank number two in the world right now. So this is a battle of the Titans. What we wanted out of this single elimination tournament. It has been going on for the past few weeks, and it has been a lot of fun to participate in and to watch some of these high level games. So, we have, just like all the other games, we are playing a single game match with 6x6 board size, as you can see here, playing with 2 komi, meaning that 2 gets added to black's flat count score at the end of the game if the game does not end in a road. And we are also playing with the time controls of 15 plus 15, so 15 minutes on the clock, 15-second increment, and an extra time at turn 35, you get 15 extra minutes added to your clock. So that gives you a lot of extra time to play in this sort of end game if things are close and going that long. Which, with these two guys, you have to assume it's going to go that long, and it's going to be solid. And as a special treat, along with me today, I have in the commentary box, I have Will, the number 4 ranked player in the world.
At the moment, at least.
At the
Hello,
moment,
everyone.
yes.
I'm Will.
That will likely change after these Dragon Cup games get added into the ratings.
Yeah, I might go down, I might go up. I don't actually know. But anyway, that's not important because we are seeing the. Is it the top 2 players today?
Yes,
I believe
number 1
so.
and number 2.
Exactly, this match is very exciting. We'll probably see some opening preparation from both, as Alion has been using both and Abyss has been using both that and Topaz. Maybe Alion has also been using Topaz. Bunch of analysis ahead of the game to prepare something special for the opponent. And then I assume the opening will be quite sharp. And we might get an interesting game.
And we do see that alion02 gets white in this game, and Abyss gets black. So again, this is a one-game match, and so it was randomized colors, and alion02 gets white here. So while that will typically, you'll say, oh, well, white might have a slight advantage here. These two players, when they played in the TAC Championship, they played 5 total games. It was a 4-game match, but they kept splitting their games. Every time, the player who had black would win. And that's exactly how that happened. When they went into the tiebreaker game, the player who had black won also. So they are both potentially against each other, at least a few months ago, preferred black against each other. So we'll see how this goes out. This might work in Abyss's advantage here. But without any further ado whatsoever, let's jump right in to this single game match, the finals of the Dragon Cup tournament, to see who gets the title of the Dragon.
My bets are on Alion, although it really could also be Abyss.
I
It's,
mean,
it is.
honestly, I feel with these two guys, it is a coin toss. And I think that coin toss also plays into Abyss has black, and we saw how well they both played as black against each other in the past tournament. And this could be an advantage to Abyss. Whereas typically you would say, oh, I don't know, the player with white kind of controls momentum at the beginning here. However, this is a very interesting opening and something I have not seen from either
Yes.
player.
Yes, this is the Willem main line for the opposite corner Knights opening. So
Interesting.
it's interesting that Abyss went into this, but I guess he doesn't like playing the hug. But then again, why would he go into the main line instead of playing what he usually plays, which would be on move 2 playing e2? I believe that's his preferred opening. F4 or sorry, c3 from him is a bit uncommon.
Yeah, I am
Um,
interested in this. This is interesting. I don't study these openings and I don't study players' openings the same way you guys do. I know you and Alion definitely study your opponent's openings and prep against them.
yes.
That is not something that I am familiar with, that I've ever done before, and I think Abyss might do it, but specifically because of you two guys, how you guys run prep with Willem.
Yeah, I think, I mean, it doesn't always really help with that specific opponent, but it at least gives some ideas of what to like look up, what to study, and just the fact that you're studying makes you better at the game, like makes you organize more patterns or find different ideas in some positions.
Yeah,
Okay, so here
I
we're
agree with
already
that.
deviating. We're already deviating. I believe on la on move 5, the main line is B4. Uh, or actually no, I might yes, I think online it's confusing. Whatever. Uh,
Doesn't matter.
I
That's
think we
not what was played.
deviated from yes,
But now white playing over at f3, it's sort of saying, all right, I am fine to go for this vertical threat now. Now that you've started playing off this, going for this sort of horizontal line, I can play for this vertical. White, I like e5 here, to be honest, because it does still connect there, and it kind of plays against black being able to go for this vertical or this horizontal as easily. And so I like white playing something like an e5, and because it's the beginning of the game and it's alion02 and Abyss, they might play that in the next 25, 35 seconds. Oh, hey, look, he played it quicker than I thought.
yes. I think E5 is quite thematic here in almost all the Willem system knight
I
openings
mean,
where you have
disregarding Willem's system, it goes
yeah,
for the
it
vertical,
it
it
makes
goes for the
sense. It makes sense.
horizontal, it blocks black, it does a lot of things at the same time. And so, understanding, I feel like Willem is great. And for those unfamiliar, Willem bot is one of the strongest bots. Will created the bot. It's potentially the strongest bot. It's hard to say, but it a lot of people will take this evaluation or these lines from Willembot and think this is how you should do this. But if you don't understand the why, it doesn't matter. And so the why of this, because if you're
Yes.
not, then you're just memorizing things, and there's too many sequences to memorize, and
Yes,
memorizing is not fun.
especially yeah, and if you try to memorize, you'll get lost and then make dumb mistakes. You
Absolutely.
cannot rely on that.
And so
Like
that's why
I've tried,
understanding
and
why
it's
that e5 is good. And why
yes,
it's good is because it blocks black. It goes for the vertical. It goes for a horizontal for white. It works for all these different sort of facets that you want to go for as white right now. And it does all of them better than any other move could, at least on that cursory sort of survey of the board.
yes. I think the reason, at least I understand it, is you have this diagonal or this nice connection on f6 and e4, and if either of e5 and f5 are blocked by black, you always have the other square for white. So you never lose that uh, vertical anchor. Like if black got both e5 and f5, then it's very difficult to try to push for that top connection. That's my understanding of it. But of course, as you said, it also works for the horizontal. But given that white's capstone is on e3 and sort of blocked in by black's capstone on d4, I think top horizontal might not be ideal for white. I think if there's a horizontal at any point for white, it's going to be along the second rank. So playing somewhere like b2 now.
Maybe. I also still like an e3 for white. And so it may not be particularly sort of intuitive there, but an e3 for a white fills in that spot. It sets up to where you can, capture, self capture with the capstone, get a hard cap there, make a really strong threat, kind of force black to self capture onto their own stuff on e4. Also, you can still play off to the side. Oh, he's going for the threat instead, getting the anchor point in. But I liked e3 for a couple of those reasons. You could also always bring your capstone left onto c3 to stop any sort of horizontal threat from happening. And there's just a lot of options there. And this, now
Already
you've
have
got black
two
building for this horizontal,
captures.
but this is a super weak threat, and you've got two flat on flat captures, creating those liabilities that white's going to be able to take care of very easily. It's not like he's setting up for any Tinue here. This is going to be taken over, and those resources are going to be used. And I don't know if that was such a great play here.
I think the idea is you want to create a big stack on f4 and then maybe force a wall. But I don't really like these early captures by black, by Abyss. Um, because like if white makes some random move and black makes the threat by playing on either a4 or a3, white will just f3 plus, and then you might recapture with 2 e4 right, but then you, as white, you just place a wall. I mean, I guess it can spread, but those are just liabilities that are never going away.
Yeah, it's a
I,
really tricky spot. And I feel like black could have done this in a much safer way. But now you've got the
yeah,
wall
you could have
dropping ready
just.
to come over.
Oh, okay.
And the only real defense of, oh, I want to make sure white doesn't do anything with those stacks is to self capture with your capstone, but that doesn't really do anything to help you. The idea is probably, all right, I will play over at a4, make the threat, force that wall to come down, drop a wall myself, and then go for the vertical on the left hand side of the board. That might be what black has to be forced into doing here. But the a4, what that does is it allows you to go for the vertical and to recapture onto b4, win that capture war if you need to. If c4 can come left to interrupt your vertical threat, maybe that's the play here. But it is not a great spot to be in for black. I'm really surprised by these early captures from Abyss.
I mean, to be fair, it was sort of forced once f1 was placed, but I think the way to play this as black is probably to move your capstone right, or it's hard to say.
I
It
mean,
is a
moving your
difficult
capstone
question.
right will almost definitely get a fill in on d4, right?
Yes, sure, but then you played d5.
Mediocre Borland in the chat saying a wall for black, potentially like dropping a wall at e2 or something like that.
I mean, you've already made the concessions of capturing the wall is unnecessary, I think.
He goes for
Maybe
the
after
a4 or the a3
after
rather.
f4 or after f5 minus, I think you might play a wall or self-capture e4, but I'm not sure.
Okay, there's the wall
Yeah,
at
so we see a
f5.
wall.
The a3 is interesting, as it does go for the vertical and the horizontal at the same time. It's a better connector than the a4 is, so I do like that. But you still have to contend with that c4 left move eventually. Once you, again, this is after you've taken care of all of white's threats over here on the right, probably with walls. You will likely need one more wall to completely dismantle white's threats over there on the right. Now it's funny that this is happening here on the right hand side because we were just talking about in the Discord server, a group of us, alion02 in there, you, Manatee, several other top players, we're all talking about maybe it's time to bring the edge crawl back to sixes. Now this isn't exactly the edge crawl, but it has turned into essentially an edge crawl here in a 6x6 game.
I think it all depends on whether Alion commits here with e3, aiming to maybe self-capture onto e3, or whether he actually pivots by playing a2. I think pivoting is the more reasonable option, but I mean, we could see either, depending on how crazy Alion is feeling today.
Yeah. I
And
do
I mean,
like the
e3
left
also
hand side
works
of the
for
board for
the
black.
horizontal, but yeah, e3 does work for both. But I think if you play e3 now, you lose. Like black will play a2, and then you cannot really
Yeah.
get that square anymore.
White
So we
dropping
see
a2
a2.
was really smart here. I feel like that was a must play because if black got a2, then that was a very strong foundation there on the left hand side for that vertical threat. Now black feels like they got to play b2, and that's what they go for. Being able to kind of support that bottom area, make almost sort of like a citadel down there. You might be seeing something like a c2 played next, or playing up in the vertical direction, up in like b5, something like that. But now white is probably going to be shifting gears, trying to go for a horizontal in the bottom half of the board. Goes for the b5, doesn't go for the c2, which is a much slower play, but b5 is quicker, but I feel like c2 kind of works as a stronger later game play, but doesn't put as much pressure on white here. Now, one thing you also have to watch out for as black is white could isolate this capstone and force you to only be able to self-capture onto that e4 if you want to move around, get a little bit more mobility with that capstone. And self-capturing, while not necessarily bad, is something that both of these players will avoid a lot of times because it is a negative flat count differential move, or essentially a zero flat count differential move, which puts you behind. And then white plays at the c2 there, which was the play that I was thinking of before. And if you're thinking flat count differential move, what the heck are you talking about? +1, +2, 0, all that stuff. We talk about that in the flat count differential or FCD video of TAC University.
Yeah. I mean, I think the reason uh, players tend to avoid, or the top players, okay, I can't really say that either because some are really fond of it. But the reason some players avoid self-capturing is because it is a -1. Of course, you get to spread over some other flats with the new stack you create, and that recovers some of the flat count difference. But in general, it just wastes time that you could spend placing flats, getting your reserve count down. If you self-capture and spread over 2, it is the same as if you just placed twice. The flat count difference is the same.
And placing
I think,
twice lowers your reserves, which is
yes.
better.
Yeah, so in general, that's better. And also, if you don't spread, you don't create vulnerabilities. So really, more flats, more better, as always.
More flats, more better, as we all know. Yeah, and we see
I think as black here,
Manatee commenting saying it's a testament to Abyss to see how little pain he got from the captures on the 4 row on the right hand side of the board, and it really is because he didn't suffer too much from that and has really pulled into a decent position here after what we thought, man, that looks bad.
eh, I think we'll see more of that come back in the end game. It's just been paused for now because it's less important than what's happening in the bottom left corner. I think as black here, you're thinking about either the placement or a1 right to force the issue while also cutting off white somewhat. But I
Now
think
here
Abyss,
you've got the c4 that has been sort of looming for a while, and in a4 looks like it might be coming in. I don't think c4 because that gives the white capstone the ability to come left and really block things out. And you don't want that capstone getting in the mix of things because then it's going to shut down your whole vertical line over there.
mm,
Yeah, and
okay, we'll
Abyss
say
does
Abyss
drop that
agrees.
a4.
I think I would think a bit longer. I would think a bit longer about this. Because C4 is also more central and keeps the horizontal sort of, but I mean, yeah, I think you at this point you have to give up on the horizontal.
Well, yes, c4, yes, it goes for the horizontal thing, but it does invite white's capstone, and you don't want that to happen.
I wonder whether we'll see D3 left anyway, or maybe just place. Just
Yeah,
place, I think. Just D2 or E2 or E3, sorry.
because if nothing is placed up there, like around c4, a5, c5, something like that, I could see even an a4 right here to make that threat stronger, as opposed to just dropping a flat at a5, just because that's a stronger spot than the flat dropping at a5.
Actually, hold on. If you... Oh no, it's not anyway. Never mind. It
No,
was
it's not. It's not Tinue because of the what he's got
I'm
down there at the bottom.
yeah. I'm just thinking like if you make a placement like e3, black gets time to prepare.
Ooh, that capstone
A5,
did
which is
come left.
stack. Then b1 plus stops it. But I was thinking, what if a3 minus in that line? I think you can still wall there as white. But given one extra move, I think black has a dangerous threat. But with the capstone there, it's much safer. I would say this is a comfortable position for white.
Yeah,
Not
they're in a
winning
better
maybe
spot
yet,
now. It
but
works more towards their
comfortable.
horizontal. It's cutting off black's vertical over here. That capstone being in the mix of things on the left-hand side is really throwing off everything that black was working for the last few minutes. Does go for the capture, but is trying to isolate that capstone. And I think that's a good play here. Makes the threat, isolates the
Mm-mm.
capstone. Capstone's not going to be able to capture up or down on anything, or left and right on anything right now. Yes, white can interrupt things, can do the c2 left move, cut that off.
I think it's short-sighted. If you just b1 plus here, you're fine. Or even,
Yeah,
yeah, you could even do c2 left if you wanted.
I still like it though. I still like the play.
You could have just placed. I mean, that's like, if you just place, you're making the same threat, and you're not making a liability.
But it's more fun.
Okay, but I think these players are are playing for wins.
Yes, they're probably playing for wins. Ooh, goes for the A1 minus, which I feel like is a much more final cut to white's or to black's line there. But black can still drop a flat there at A2 or something like that. Maybe even a wall at A2, probably not. But something like that to continue that line and to continue interrupting white, because white wants an anchor point on the left hand side of the board. Right now, that's A1. Dropping a flat at A2 allows them to do something like B2 minus after the fact and really set up that tack threat.
Yeah, I think now we see the vulnerability after SB3. What are you doing with that stack?
I don't think white's going
Are
to
you
drop
moving your
a wall at
capstone
B3.
left?
I think white's going to drop a flat at C1.
Depends. Are you more concerned about the road or more about... I mean, okay, if you play C1, then what do you do after B2 minus? What's your plan there?
C1 left.
Just make a bigger stack
Yep,
for black
absolutely.
to make use of with their wall after like
Absolutely. You've got the
SC1.
capstone close enough that you can put that in position to stop black's wall from doing anything.
Oh, you think you're going to smash then?
Oh, you've
Okay.
got the ability to do it. You have the freedom to smash any sort of wall that gets placed to capture anything over there. I think it's a totally viable path. But the wall
Yeah,
at
okay.
B3 is a totally valid move as well.
It is what I would play. I but I think Alion might play more dangerously. That's one thing he told me after my loss to him in this tournament, is that I play too many walls, that I'm too wall happy. Uh,
Didn't
so
you play like
I
six
think
walls against him?
yes, I panicked. I was in a winning position, and I was low on time, and I was like, I just don't want to lose to a road. Let me play more walls, and then I miscounted, uh, and ended up losing by one flat.
Yeah, I remember you
Which, if I
having
had not
six
placed the
walls, which
wall,
was just wild to me. It was bonkers.
yeah. Anyway, so I think that might be Alion's internal monologue. Like, the wall seems really good, but we saw what happened in the game against Will. Do I want to play a wall? Or maybe he's not thinking about my game at all, you know, that could also just be like, is C1 better or is SB3 better?
But an interesting thing is, Alion just a couple moves ago was 3 minutes ahead on time, and now he's pulled even and even going lower than Abyss right now. So really using that time to think about this move to be able to come up with the best play possible. And I think he's probably thinking about wall B3, flat C1. Those are probably
Yeah.
what he's kind of going back and forth on. Do I do this or that? This or that? This or that? And then
I
now in the next
think
5 seconds,
he's
he's gonna prove me wrong and play something totally different.
yeah, I think he's just calculating C1 because you have to calculate this. Like C1, B2 minus, what do? You suggested C1 left, then say S C1. You don't want that wall to go left,
So you
so you
throw the cap
smash.
and smash.
Yeah, which is a minus what, one move because you're covering your own flat on. Actually, yeah,
Yes.
minus two
Yes.
move because covering your flat on C2. Is this really worth it just for this threat? Your your momentum is 2, but I mean black can then play something like A2 minus, and then you can capture the left, I guess, but then maybe another wall comes in. Like I don't like this line, and I think Alion doesn't like it either. So
Probably.
SB3, but then okay, if you play SB3, there's crazy ideas for black, like moving the capstone left to defend the stack, like just
Mm-hmm.
D4 left, or
Or
I'm
smashing.
trying to think. What can you smash? What the
Ooh.
hell is
See,
this
look, does
move?
a totally different move. I called it just a few seconds
What
ago. I
the
said,
hell?
he's thinking about these two moves, but then in 5 seconds, he's going to prove me wrong and play something totally different. Yes, that's exactly what he did. He brings that capstone up to threaten that stack, but also to block off black from continuing to build for that horizontal that he's kind of got going on. Not really. Requires some capstone shenanigans, but that cap walking up is, again, a zero move for
So it's
for
equivalent to
flats.
placing a wall, but it doesn't have the same weakness of like a smash threat from black if they move their capstone left. Maybe that is why he played this move. I'm a bit confused. It does make sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're threatening a stack. That's the same thing you would do by placing a wall. But I haven't thought about this long enough to
So
give a
I
good
think
evaluation. But my immediate reaction is like it's just worse than a wall. But
it may be
maybe not.
goes for the flat at C1, and then the capture happens as we expected. Will black play at A5 to continue a threat that just gets shut down, or will we see
Just play a
something
flat when
else?
you can play a flat.
Because if black plays a flat at A5, then I think white's going to bring that capstone stack down onto B2, and then we're going to be continuing for that horizontal line. And he's also going to have shut down black's vertical. But black instead is saying, all right, I'll shift to the horizontal myself. And I'll block you from going for the horizontal down below. And I think now this is where both players, I think black might be shifting to the vertical on the D column, and I think white might need to start shifting to a vertical as well. But it's a tough spot to be in.
You think so? I would just continue with the horizontal, like play D1 or something like that.
It feels
D1
really weak and easily canceled, and that's why I feel like it might not be the best play. Maybe
probably
D3 gets
be
played. D1 or D3 I feel like are pretty solid
mm,
plays here. Um,
D3 feels worse than D1 because it places next to a capstone. That
yeah.
capstone can then come down and improve its position. Right now, black's capstone is a bit useless. So if you put D3 there, you're making it less useless.
Yeah, you're inviting the
It is a
capstone to
central
move.
placement, but yeah, I don't really feel good about that move. I think here D1 makes sense.
It does go for the
B3 potentially
horizontal.
makes sense. A5 makes some sense, but I would probably just play D1 here.
He
Yeah,
goes for the
that's what you
D1.
see.
Now
Expect
he's got a
E1 from
threat
black.
in one move. Now, will we see black just drop a flat at E1? Or will we see
Yeah,
something different?
that's my expectation because you don't want white to place E1.
Also, Abyss now 1 minute ahead on the clock. Though,
I think as a miss, you're thinking, how can I activate my capstone? And the only real ideas that come to mind is self-capturing on E4 and trying to go for a smash for it.
yeah,
So if you're in that mindset, you will need a connection on D3, E3, like those kinds of squares, so that you can smash right for a road.
correct.
Or you
And
can spread downwards, but yeah, anyway.
you can take a look at the flat count differential. Both players here. So black is at 11 flats with the two komi, and white is at 9. So black's ahead on flats, but white has a +3 move available with that capstone spreading upwards if they wanted to just really get ahead on flats for whatever reason, which is a little early for that. But black does have the option of, again, coming over and doing some shenanigans, smash his own thing there on F4, and then spreading down for another couple, which gives him basically a net +1. Not necessarily enough to counteract that, but enough to bring him even, I think, and maybe with a little bit better position to do things. So I think ultimately, black is going to have to make that self capture onto E4 with the capstone if he wants to sort of stay in this game and get that capstone activated. And he needs to get the capstone activated because that's what he needs in order to get this game moving in his direction. He does play at D3, going for that vertical line as expected. Now we're probably going to see a B2 right here. B2 right cuts off the vertical threat and also keeps white from tossing that capstone down onto B2 for that capture. But it might
I
allow
think there
white
is a
to
but.
throw, yeah, white's able to throw that capstone down to the bottom in a good spot, and that's tricky. That would be
Ooh,
tricky.
actually, yeah. Hold on.
Not
If
Tinue,
you do
but
B2 right,
it's
you
tricky.
then go down.
I don't think it's
You
Tinue, but
do like C1
it's
right,
rough.
move right. Hmm. Might have been the wiser choice. A2 minus, but these are very difficult positions to calculate with a lot of spreads. So the threat here for white, if you do something like B2, right, was to spread that capstone that's on B4 downwards onto B1, and then threaten to just spread right for a road.
Yeah,
The defense there would be again E2 minus or C1 right. But in those positions, those moves are a bit weaker because, of course, the capstone is there, so it can always recapture those vulnerabilities and keep making threats. And yeah, there's like every move is a spread, so it gets really difficult to keep track of.
now here it feels like you got to do B1 left if you're white. You've got the capstone there to be able to throw down. So once B1 left happens, black drops a wall at A2. But
I mean, why not just place on A2 or something? There's no need to capture, I think.
for white,
Yeah, just keep placing. I see no immediate threat from black.
yeah, that stack though.
Well, it moves right. Big deal. You have plenty of flats there, hopefully. And if it just moves one space right, you move your capstone down. If it moves two spaces right, you have two white flats there. For just one black defender, you win that stack war. And if a wall comes down, the only place it can really come down is B1. You can smash that if you want. I mean, I'm making it sound simpler than it is. I'm I might just be missing something, but to me, I would just probably place, I don't know, maybe even a2, inviting the spread upwards so that when I stop the attack threat with free b4 left, I can aim at that stack on a2.
It's a good point. I don't think that far ahead. That's why I'm not in the top 5. I just see a stack like that and I think, well, it's undefended and it's in a position where it can make a positive flag on differential move. And I have a position to be able to bring my capstone down and defend it if I need to later. But instead, white brings the capstone down, makes a +2 move. However, does not make a threat here, but knows that they'll be able to do something with that a1 stack. If black drops a flat at a2 to make the threat, it invites white's capstone to come over.
I think black might place at a5 here, making the attack threat. You cannot place on a2 because it would still lose to a road.
Yeah.
So then probably b1 left. There, you probably place a wall on a2 as black. But then white just spreads, right?
Or white smashes.
So
probably not smashes.
I mean, you're releasing 3 black black flats there, which can spread right or up, and either doesn't sound too good. You leave your capstone on the edge. I mean, yeah, it's a valid move. It's possible in the game of tag, and it probably is fun.
Thank you for
So
acknowledging and knowing what I was getting at.
Okay, we do see
Black plays at b4, not the a5 move you
right?
expected.
It's pretty much the same. Actually, b4 is better because you have c4 to play for your vertical threat. I missed that. We have e1 left anyway, so now does the wall come down? Or do you play c4 for the threat first? Probably not.
If you play
Probably just
c4, you
lose.
lose.
Not
It's got to.
immediately, but
It's not
soon,
immediately,
right?
but it's got to be a loss because you'll get 4a1 right to 2, which the only delaying move you've got is the d2 minus. And while that it's not Tinue, it is such a strong position still. It would just be really, really difficult to come out of that.
Yeah, so maybe you do c1 right first, make the threat, move your flat out of the way so that you can then place a wall and have that spread be a smaller FCD move.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I find myself lost in these positions. So many stack spreads.
Goes for
Okay,
this.
that does happen.
Now here you can still throw that stack right. You can do a 4a1
4a1
right 1 1 2. And that is, for those unaware, that is the portable tack notation off on the left. It's how we describe tack moves, and you can check out the video on that in Tack University on portable tack notation, or PTN. Now this was an interesting move, coming left with that E1.
What?
I mean, he can defend that stack with the A1 stack, so it's not like it's there, but he is getting rid of that that connection point there on the right-hand side.
It's also played quite fast.
Mm-hmm. Well, he is down to
And
three
it's
and a
not a
half
move I
minutes.
expected.
Abyss down to 2.5.
It is true, they have still 10 moves to go until they reach time control.
Yeah, they will get an extra 15 minutes at turn 35, but they've got to get there first. Wall does drop. I think that's a good wall because white's not going to spread the whole thing up onto d2 and d3 because that allows the capstone to get it. If it brings just two flats up onto d2, black brings the wall up onto c2, ready to smash that. So it looks like black's going to get something here with that wall. That wall was a good placement, I feel. Black down by one flat.
If you do 2 d1 plus and the wall follows with c1 plus, you can't really smash, right?
No, you wouldn't. I don't
You
think
smash,
you would
then
want to as white.
yeah.
I think this. I feel like you've got to go for the capture here.
So 2d1 plus and c1 plus, then put
E1 wouldn't work.
2a1 plus 2 and then if c2 right, then you smash? No, because then the black stack spreads left and that looks dangerous.
Way too strong to let that happen. Yeah.
Hey, black is definitely playing. They didn't sleep today, or they didn't sleep on this game, during this game. I don't know what the proper lingo is.
I don't either. Black is playing well. is not phoning it in. We'll say.
Yes, yeah.
Another
Another wall.
wall.
I like it.
Wow. Okay. And that's to capture onto D2 right away. Also to keep that wall there on C1. This just kills white's horizontal down there below.
Yeah,
Which
so
is,
what's the
I
plan
mean, it's
for
great.
white?
So white has to shift. White has to go for something completely different.
Sort of just like E1, like being the E1 placement here. Just show that you
For
don't really
black.
have to do anything. Yeah, just like your 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 road is dead. Just E1. I don't have to capture left if I don't want to. Actually, I think that might actually have been better than E2 left here because white can theoretically play E1 here if they want to, and then it's harder to get that
Yeah. I
connection
I
at the
agree with
bottom. But
that
of course,
actually.
you can spread downwards with the D2 stack and then spread right.
Mm-hmm. For a little road threat once you get that C4 placed.
So now we're thinking how to continue as white.
It's a good question.
I can see C5, maybe trying to pivot for that vertical, but after that, black just plays C4. If you play C4 yourself, then black can just move the capstone left. So really that, like this choke point at C4, you're not really getting past that. And if you accept that, we really see that white with its capstone is stuck in the bottom left. Maybe what you have to do is force black's capstone left and then try to activate your threat on the right with moving the wall to the left. Once the capstone has moved, then you're free to try to revive that threat. If that made sense. Like currently the reason white is not moving the wall on f4 to the left is because it's just going to get smashed. But if you play on c4 or play like some idea like that that forces the black capstone to the left, you might be able to move like 4 or sorry 3 f4 left 1 2. and prevent the capstone from stopping that threat.
And black's capstone has not moved all game.
Perfectly placed, potentially, despite it very much looking not like that. I think Alion might be seeing what I'm putting down. I hope he's not listening to the stream. That would be cheating.
He is not. Also, we're on a delay.
Good. Yeah, but I think if at any point black's capstone moves left, we'll see free f4 left 1-2. So putting the wall all the way onto d4, blocking the capstone from attacking e4.
I think black should drop
Which
at
would be
e1. He's down below a minute, though.
I think there's no immediate threats for either side here. This might just go down to flats quite early. And on
No,
that front, how are
I
we?
see something in the vertical direction for black here pretty soon. I see if he gets e1 down, I think e1 was the better play there. If he dropped e1 and then he eventually brings over b4 right, that's a good threat to me. e1 then b4 right, I feel is a solid vertical threat there, especially with now that he's got that citadel up there, having built at c6. It's even stronger than it was before, and that may be what he's looking at. But the c1 placement is the thing that confuses me, because it feels like e1 was the play since that makes the threat. But he may be going for the c1 right instead of the wall spread to the right. But I feel like the wall spread right
No,
might be the better play.
I think the reason why c1 over e1, at least in Abyss's mind, is that he wants white to play in e1 or e2 because you get to spread over more white flats, which increases the efficiency of that
Yeah.
spread. You get
Now,
more
white
flat
playing up
count.
at d5, potentially trying to set up a vertical attack threat on the right-hand side using that f4 wall stack, bringing it left and then right
Ooh.
again. But
If white gets c3, then black's capstone is pinned horizontally, so then you can play, like you can move that wall left if you want to, because black cannot smash. Okay, but Abyss fills in that square, so we don't get that opportunity.
he saw what was going down. Both playing pretty quick. Abyss down to 35 seconds on the clock. alion02 down to a minute. They're both playing pretty fast here, trying to get to that 35 move mark to be able to get that extra 15 minutes on the clock.
So white, okay, was
Black
at
makes the
15
spread.
this. Well, I have to recount. So 4, 4, 6, right? So that's 14 for white, I believe. And then we have 6 plus 6 for black, so that's also 14. So it's 14, 14, right?
I don't know. Black wants a b4 right here. White's got to do something to stop that.
Hmm. If b4 right now, what do you do as white? Certainly not clear. I think, yeah, I think you have to play something weird like b1 right, but then the wall comes down. Ooh.
So yeah, it is now 14-13. Black in the lead with flats. It's close. He was down to 15 seconds.
Looking, this is
alion02 down below
looking
30 seconds on the
very good
clock now.
for very good for black now.
Yeah, black has been doing some work right now. Do you place at e1? He's got 15 seconds. He's got to make a quick decision. Goes for the capture. That would be my gut reaction here. Now, I feel like a wall has to drop from white. Potentially
Yeah,
at
probably wall
d2,
on d2.
but
Yeah.
e1 I feel like is better than d2.
Why?
because black wants to throw that to the right. If a wall drops at d2, black spreads to the right. The wall is at d2. Where does it go? Does it go right? Does it go up? And so I feel like e1 was the better wall placement here. alion02 officially now at 15 and a half minutes on the clock. He got those extra 15 minutes. Abyss needs, now he's got the extra 15 minutes. That, however, was a tough one. Now White's got this wall, able to capture onto d1 and really get into the thick of things. And that's going to be tricky to combat for sure.
Mm. I think that in the last few moves, some mistakes were made. I'm not sure by whom,
I mean, I'm sure
but
mistakes by everyone were made, but it depends on which ones were worse. But you had less than a minute on the clock. You've got 30 seconds to
yeah,
think. You're gonna make mistakes. But now that they both have the extra 15 minutes, they are gonna take their time here. Black, considering the different moves that he's got, potentially with a b4 right move to make the tack threat, potentially with bringing a capstone moving somewhere else.
I definitely don't think b4 right. If anything, it's probably c1 or e1. That does invite the wall stack on d1 right or left, but then you can place the other one, make attack for it. Or the stack just moves up.
How is this? How is a flat on c1 attack threat?
Well, not now, but imagine like e1 gets played, then there's how many is this? 1, 2, 3, 4 d1 right, and then c1 is attack threat. Or no, never mind. It's two action attack threat. You need to capture onto c4 with b4, and then it's attack threat.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
why I
it's
was
okay.
thinking
It's
b4
not.
right seems better.
But if you b4 right here, then white just places e1, and you have nothing. I feel.
Maybe, maybe.
Hold on. Does this work? You can then capture d4 right and spread down like 3 e4 minus 1 1
Oh
1.
yeah, you could do that. That does work. I like that. That's a
It's a
fun
pretty.
play. That's a fun play.
That's a fun move. Yeah, but if you ever moved right, then the stack on d1 just moves up.
Yeah. Either way, we're going to be seeing some thinking going on right now.
A nice moment of quiet before the storm. Or maybe we are past the storm now. It's sort of the end game with black only having 6 flats or 6 reserves remaining, white having 8. Ooh, that's an interesting capture.
Oh,
A4 minus.
why? What does this accomplish?
I think maybe as black you want another wall on the, like if
I feel like that's the
2
only
A2
reason for
plus,
that.
then like SA4 and try to do something with that.
I feel like that's the only reason he would go for something like that.
And you also know that that stack cannot spread right because you have your wall on C2 to defend. I like it. It's not a move I would have thought of.
Absolutely not. Because for me, that's just if I capture here, it just gets recaptured. However, let's say it gets recaptured by b3.
Still, you place SA4.
Yeah,
You cannot that stack
you
like
can't do
will
anything with
go
it.
right, but there's a wall on C2, there's a wall on A4. Whichever way you move, you
Hmm.
are going to get a bit punished.
And there's a capstone there at d4. Like there's a yeah, that's a great play and something I don't know that I would have thought of if given like 15 minutes to think about.
Don't think it was actually necessary. I could have just placed on A5. I think black is ahead by one, right?
I believe so.
And they're down on flats, so you could have just placed. But maybe this preemptively attacks that white sort of area, like the squares from A1 to B3. Doesn't let that fester, get any more dangerous.
So black is at 13 with the komi and white is at 12. So white does have a plus 3 move available. No, plus 4 move available, though not great to be used until like the very end. Black has some positive FCD moves available right now with that A3 stack. However, it's got to be it's got to be something happening with that A3 stack right now because if it doesn't, Black's going to use that in a strong way. Oh, I'm just so interested in what's going to happen with that. What will he do?
It's definitely puzzling.
And you can tell because alion02 has spent 3 minutes thinking about this move. What do I do with that? I did not expect that, and that's what he's probably thinking. That was a good move. How do I stop this from happening? That's what I love watching
Can
some of
you
these
just
high level
ignore it?
games for is you'll be in a position, you'll see something, and someone will play something you had no idea was even an option, or that you thought would be just dumb, and so you just missed it, and they play it right away, and you're like, oh, I get it. This is why this is good. There was a game a number of years ago between I believe Abyss and No Hat Coder. Maybe it was somebody else, but I think it was them. And Abyss had played a move, and I thought, well, that's a bad move, because No Hat's just gonna make this move, and that just cancels it all out, and it works really well for him. No Hat did not make that move, and he took like 5 minutes, and I was just sitting there thinking, what is he possibly thinking about here? That's the move to make. And then he made a completely different move, and then I realized after the fact, after I think like 8 minutes of staring at the board trying to figure out why No Hat wasn't making the move, that if he had made the obvious move in two more moves, it was Tinue for Abyss. And so it's
Yes, wasn't that the game from the Chandrian in
I believe so. I believe it was a Chandrian tournament.
2021?
And and I always think of that moment of I was so sure that this was the correct and right move to make, and I was thinking, why in the world is No Hat not making the move? And it took him 8 minutes thinking about it, and I was like, I've never thought about a move for 8 minutes. I've never thought about a move for 2 minutes, let alone 8 minutes. And it turned out that yeah, he absolutely needed to take that time to make a different move there because otherwise he was toast. And it was just something that you couldn't see super easily. And this sort of move, that A4 minus move, is one of those I feel. Not like that it's a Tinue trap, but that it is a move that you didn't see coming and you know how it's gonna play out.
Yeah, I think here SA4 and then you take the whole stack because it's 6, so you can still
Mm-hmm.
pick it up and move it downwards by 2. That's a 0 move as well. gets away from the wall.
Or you move it to the
Uh,
right onto b3 so the capstone can take it.
well, then you get. Oh, you mean the whole stack?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Well, okay, that's. I didn't
Because
consider
if you move
this.
it to the
That,
right on b3,
that's a -1 though,
but
right?
it's a tack
That's a
threat.
minus. Ooh, I didn't even see that. Okay.
Yeah. See? See? This is the sort of thing where we're like, oh, obviously this is going to happen. But no, 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 no. There's another way. If he brings the whole stack over to the right on b3 after black drops a wall on a4, which is feels like he should have already done by now, then that's a attack threat, and black needs to stop that. And how do they stop that? They stop that with a number of ways. Either bringing that wall on c2 up to capture over, or capturing down with a flat or something like that onto b3, but then that invites the capstone over.
Maybe d4 minus, which attacks both d1 and
Ooh, yeah,
d
that is
d3.
a snazzy move right there. I
But
like
okay,
that
the
move.
issue with that move is then white will spread upwards, I think,
Yeah.
which is attack threat again, and then you have to stop that before you can do anything with d1,
Well,
and maybe
then you spread left onto
white has enough
b3, and you've
time.
still gotten another stack that you can liberate, and then you can move that capstone up and recapture those flats and still do a lot of damage there. I feel like ultimately, if you do get an SA4 and then the whole 6A3, ooh,
What? Why
why
this move? It
SA2?
just seems worse.
Does he want the stack to spread up?
And then you place another wall? What is the idea? I don't. Why SA2 instead of SA4? Is he just trying to be tricky for no reason, or is there something we're missing?
I don't know.
So
Maybe he doesn't want
SA2,
that stack to spread down, because then if it spreads down, then all those captives are protected by that capstone, and he won't be able to relinquish them. But if he drops a wall at a2, and it spreads up, he can drop another wall and capture him again. And so it's potential. There's the potential there that a3, if he drops the wall at a4, that a3 spreads down and he never gets those flats again. But if he drops it at a2, there's the potential that he can get those flats again with another wall. Because if he drops a wall now at a3, he's threatening to capture onto b3 or a4. And either one gives him liberated captives.
the problem is there's no white flats there. So you cannot. It's never. Okay, how do I say this? You play a wall there, you capture onto a stack with a captive. If you don't have a place to spread, you're not getting any FCD out of that.
Yeah, but you can make tack
If
threats
there's.
with those stacks.
That is very true. Is there time for that? There is time for that, given white still has 8 reserves.
Yeah. And black's down to what, 5?
Yes. But I feel like also just place. I mean, okay, to be fair, placing a wall also is placing. So that does help.
It does lower the
Ah,
reserves.
yes. I think Abyss is playing it correctly. Or, well, he's probably
But
playing it
black
as
is
any
down by
any
one
person
flat right
would.
now. After that spread, black is down by one flat.
Yeah, because of the wall. And it's again, it's this curse. You play too many walls, and you don't have enough time to recover your flats. Will Abyss fall into the same trap I did? I mean, given that he played a SA2 instead of SA4, I thought he would have a plan. But maybe we're just not seeing it yet. Maybe the idea is just play SA3 yourself, or not, or just A3. Hmm.
This
Okay.
works
So the flat
for.
count is 13 for white. and 12 for black. 14 for white.
White can
Well,
make
okay,
a
12
tag
plus
threat
2.
in one move. Is black going to capture onto a5? Or they have something else in mind?
Okay, you have to be careful here because if you place, okay, maybe not careful, but you have to be wary that if you place e1 and then the e1 stack moves right, it's stack.
Yeah,
So maybe that's why he played that. Maybe that's why he played SA2, so he could capture down and stop that.
that does make sense. However, he'll need to capture down and then capture right because that capstone stack is just going to be able to. He'll be able to drop another flat at a2 or a3 to renew the tag
Yeah.
threat horizontally. So it'll have to be two captures in a row with white dropping flats and lowering their reserve count. And this is a tough spot to be in. It is a tricky game right now. We are in a very tricky position. I do still really like black at this moment. I know white's ahead on flat count, and they have some good flat moves available to them. For whatever reason, I like black's position here better.
I can put some reasons to that. They have only 4 reserves left. They have a much more like active capstone. It's also like more available to move and make threats. They have some very juicy vulnerabilities to exploit on A4 and A5, which can both lead to tag threats, well, for now, and also give FCD.
All good
There's
reasons. I'm
there's
actually looking
still like a lot
at
of
white
walls that
has
can move around.
white has this opportunity to make a road, so they've got a tag threat now, but they also have another opportunity to make a tag threat. Wait, whoa, 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 whoa! Oh, sorry, I totally missed that a6 minus had happened before the e1. I was like, whoa, 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 hold on, did he miss the threat?
So
That did
yeah,
not happen.
A6 minus, yeah, E1 is a tag threat.
Will we
So
see
either
a2
we see
minus?
A2 minus or
Maybe C,
two
2c2 minus?
F two F2 minus, I think. No?
But not
Or
2c2
where do you
minus,
think?
right?
Mm, I dislike that, but I don't really have a good reason.
I think the
I think
reason
it's
is then
just a capstone.
because the capstone can move more.
Yeah, but will it ever move more? Is that even a concern that we should think about?
Mm-hmm.
If not, then that might be better because if you do 3 F2 minus and then we see a spread up of the D1 stack, there's potential for threats still. Like we
Yeah.
might see
Well, you also have the threat
4 D1
option.
plus 2 and then E1 plus is attack threat
You also have the
or
threat option
scroll.
of bringing 3 a4 right. Oh wait, never mind, not anymore because the a5 got captured. So that stops it. White, can they immediately renew?
They
No,
can spread upwards, right?
but I don't think
So
that
it's
immediately renew. Oh, it does. It does immediately renew.
it
Yeah.
does because you have E1 plus.
Hmm.
That's what I was saying. So if the capstone is not a problem, then C2 minus might have been more efficient.
Yeah.
But difficult to say because if that spread happens, it's giving black's capstone more to play with. And if after you
Yeah.
stop that with something like, I don't know, 4 F1 left, actually doesn't stop it for very long. Maybe here you actually do 2C2 left, or is it 2C2 minus? After that happens, then the black capstone is uh like in a good position to smash and make
I also want to point out that
more.
Black's capstone has not moved in 36 moves,
So well
and
placed,
I feel
despite
like that
what it
means
looks
it's
like.
a good, it's well placed, or that he played well around the position of his capstone. It could also mean that the capstone was horribly placed, because if it was like off in a corner somewhere where it wasn't doing anything and couldn't move, that would also be another indicator. But I feel like in this case, absolutely, the capstone, we thought for a while it wasn't doing anything, it wasn't part of the game, but it is absolutely central to all of Abyss's potential threats. It's in
Yeah,
a
to have
great
a
spot.
capstone this late in the game without any flats under it is a great resource.
All right,
But
and here, do you bring four
hmm,
F1 left?
but this is not attack threat. Oh,
It
it
is.
is. Wait.
Yeah, it is a threat.
Oh, I thought about also taking, like, if you were to make another move here as white, like two D2 plus, that would also be the attack threat. But this is attack threat by spreading right with
Correct.
the D2 stack and doesn't give a nice smash for black.
Hmm.
Mm, yeah. I mean, one thing you have to think about when moving F1 left is you're bringing it closer to white's capstone.
Hmm.
And if white is really desperate, maybe they have time to move downwards and try to smash that.
That is true.
But there's only 4 reserves left. Is there enough time for this? We move left with that stack.
I think that
White
moving left with that F1
does
stack
that
totally
immediately.
works.
You place, smash, you spread. Actually, yeah, it's probably just fine
You could also bring
because
down 2e4, 2e4 minus.
maybe, yeah.
It also, that 2e4 minus stops that threat, also gets rid of a +2 move from white. And you'll win that stack war down on e3. Not immediately renewable after any sort of stack war that happens. Ultimately, I feel like it also works towards a horizontal threat for black. It works in a lot of ways. I feel like I really like the 2e4 minus move. I don't know that it was better than the 4f1 left, but I do like it.
I think you're just aiming to place as black. And of course, make the spread downwards with a5.
Hmm.
Just placing, placing. So if you can place here, you should, I think. So instead of concerning yourself with making attack threats, just try to end the game. Uh, white is down to 6 reserves. Black is still on 4. At this point, you might be able to like calculate to the end of the game with this many
Um,
reserves.
you're gonna use you as in general, not me specifically, right?
Yeah, like a good tag player might
A
be able
good
to.
tag play. Hey, what are you trying to say?
I mean, you should be able to. That's what I mean.
All right, are we gonna
For
see a
second,
b5 left?
surely.
I think we surely
Or
do.
if you do b5 left and sb5,
And then
maybe
you
makes
spread
you.
you spread down and leave a good stack on a4 or a3 to be able to spread to the right and make those horizontal lines and stuff. I think that ultimately that's a great spot for black to be in.
True, but it does mean that the white gets 2 placements. So the reserves go down by 2. They're currently even on reserves, and after the spread, there's another placement that could be made. And then for black to actually get any FCD out of this, they have to make another spread. So then white is the one who is down on reserves.
I don't know. This spread down with black feels good to me, and
What was
they'll
the
they'll come
FCD
ahead on
situation?
flats.
It's a 9 plus 2 for black, and it's 5 plus 7, so 13
12.
for white.
12, right?
Or
Right
wait,
now.
oh yeah, 12. Yeah, my math skills are great.
That's the
I
spread
need
I
to
was
practice
thinking
a
of
bit
right
more.
there. That's the spread I liked.
keeping both stacks active.
And it's crazy how, they spent 35 moves getting down, using up that 15-minute timer with the 15-second increment, and they have done that same thing in 9 moves. Have spent the 10 minutes of their 15 with the 15-second increment. So they have really been thinking hard, because this game has gotten significantly more complex after they once they got to that point, and they needed all that extra time in order to get through some of these moves.
And that's one of the things that makes tech interesting, because it gets more complicated as you get more moves in. Games like chess or Go, they have fewer moves to make as pieces get removed or spaces get filled. But in tech, you just keep adding pieces, you keep making the game more complex. And in the end game, you have this explosion of possibilities. And assuming that both players played well, you end up with a position where it's still anyone's game. While in someone like in chess, if you play well, then both players trade evenly, and you're left with a draw. In tag, even if both players play evenly, you'll be left with a position where there's a ton of pieces still on the board, and either player can still make moves to try to win.
Yeah, a game of tack isn't over until the game of tack is over, because so many things can happen where, somebody blunders a road, or there is some crazy move somebody makes that you would never see, where they throw a capstone, leaving behind a ton of their enemies' pieces, and smashes a wall, and then does crazy stuff and comes back ahead on flats. Like, just some wild stuff is possible in a lot of these tack games, and it's something that really keeps the game interesting for a long time. Now, thinking about this move here, I was looking at both of these spreads, the spread right with A3 and the spread right with A4. And for a second, I was convinced it was A3, but you would take the whole thing and go right 1, 2. But then I was looking at the A4 stack, and I was thinking, okay, well, if you do that, then you've got the vertical connection. But if you do the other one, you've got the horizontal connection. And I'm not sure which one is better here.
Your suggestion of moving the whole stack up from A3 and moving to the right is just a minus. Well, okay, it's a +1.
Which is the same as just a flat drop.
Yeah. Yes. So.
But it's set up for another
Brilliant.
+2 move immediately after.
And actually, if we think about this move as well, it's just a +1.
Which also sets up for another +2 immediately after.
Yeah, and this one is further away from White's capstone. I think if you were to
Yeah.
compare the two moves that the one is just in and the one that was played, then you're just moving further away from the capstone, not giving it too much space to move.
The A4 spread, I feel like, was better. Specifically because the capstone can't get onto it without leaving behind black flats. And if they do get onto B4 and leave behind black flats, at least one black flat will be left behind on B3, and then it can spread down for another +2 move, and get farther away from the capstone, and also get better on flats and just work towards it, because you've got, again, fewer reserves than your opponent. White's on 5 reserves, black's on 4. I expect white at some point to be playing at F2 to go for another tack threat in the horizontal direction. It's not an immediate one, but they will be able to use that D2 stack to make a positive flat on differential move by spreading probably upwards, maybe to the right.
It has to be up if you want it to be a tack threat. If you move to the right, then you're blocking yourself with the wall.
Well, I was saying is after you play F2.
Oh, wait.
After you play F2. If you play to the right, you have that same option, but
if you do 2D2 right now, then b3 right 1-1
Oh
stack
yeah,
threat?
it would be. It would be.
Okay. I'm always a bit confused about the terminology. So is 2d2 right attack threat, or is it the attack threat? Is the move you make to make a road the attack threat? Like
So
when is it attack threat? Is it
the
when it's
move that you make to make the threat is the tack threat. So you're making a threat by doing 2d2 right. Because you're threatening to make a road.
yes.
And so that's attack threat. And then you're threatening a road is another thing that I sometimes say, which makes things extra confusing. And I don't do this on purpose. It just happens.
Language is probably as complicated as stack, if not more so.
Sorry, say that again.
Language is as complicated as stack, if not more so.
I'm gonna say more so. Just
Depends
because
on
I've
how far
struggled with it.
you try.
I mean, you speak at least two languages.
Yes.
I speak two
Is it
languages.
that
I have
obvious?
trouble in both of them.
Oh no. Anyway, Alien is down to under a minute. There's no extra time for him, so he'll have to play on increment. Just places a flat on A1. Sorry, uh, A6.
All right, the flat gets dropped at a6, trying to get ahead on
Seems
flat
like
count
a
here.
just like a waiting move, waiting to see what Abyss will play, whether he'll spread right or not.
I think
He's
it's
ahead on flats.
I think it is seeing that, but it's also trying to cut off Abyss from playing up at a6 to make that horizontal connection, because Abyss might want to play for a horizontal road, but he can't drop a flat at f2 because then you get the d2 stack going right and being able to make a better flat count differential move. So he's probably trying to force worse flat count differential moves out of black. But you will take a note that alion02 is down below 1 minute on the clock, and Abyss just below
What?
3 minutes.
What is this move? I
Ooh,
mean, I get that it moves away from the
yeah.
stack on
So it gets there's no
f4.
+2 move now, and he can recapture it with the wall on f5 if he needs to do that, and come out ahead on that.
Ah. So it's like it is similar to capturing down, but you have your wall there to protect it
Yes,
instead of relying on the capstone. Makes sense.
it's a good play.
Is it better than placing, given that Alien is now on 3 reserves?
Hard to say, but you are denying a +2 move in the future. And I think that that's important. And Abyss may have a plan here on how to get ahead. Aliano 2 is going to try and just brute force a flat win here. Um, he's got 12 flats showing. Abyss has 12 showing. White has a +2 move available. Black has a +2 move available. So currently, I would say white has an advantage because they are lower on reserves. Black's got to figure out a way to make this work without and part of this is he's got to do something sort of it might be too late to do anything really. He drops at f1. I think he needed to do something on this turn here, or maybe the turn prior, in order to get ahead on flats, because it looks like white's going to win on flats here. That capstone may need to come down onto d3, maybe on the previous turn, to smash on d2 and do something to recover more flats and just get ahead. But I'm not sure if that's going to be possible anymore.
4, 4, 3. +2. Counting.
Yeah, I think Alion has taken this. I think that previous turn, F1, maybe even the turn prior, Black needed to bring that capstone down. I think that it is a Galen at this point for White.
Well, let me count and then I'll try to challenge you on that. But I need to count first. So it's 13 for black on white's turn, right? And then 5 plus 5 plus 3. So 13 for white on white's turn,
It's currently
right?
13 for Black on Black's turn, right?
Well, black hasn't played it. I mean, after white's turn. That's probably the better way of phrasing.
Gotcha.
That's what matters.
Yeah.
After the player with less reserves this turn, that's the one that matters.
Abyss now down to 25 seconds. Places another flat. Yeah, this doesn't look like it's gonna work out here for Abyss.
They'll be able to like go punch for punch because white has to place at either F2 or F4 if they want to place, right? Those are only two empty squares, and then they cannot place because if they do, the board fill wins for black. So then they have to make a move here. That's one. Another was
Oh.
moving 2d2 right, and then black can place and then they are lower on reserves, and they're it's not easy. And given that they're at 17 seconds, I feel this could still be anyone's game, even if it might be Gaelic for one of them, but it's hard.
I feel like you've got to recapture that. But he doesn't.
That's placement. Now, if there's a spread, there's another spread. Ooh, hold on, what is the count? Oh no, I lost track. Probably furiously counting as well. So it's 4 plus 4 plus 2 plus 2, so that's
14 for
12.
White.
Yeah, 12
12
for
for Black.
black. So placing loses.
Yes.
You have to make some move. White cannot allow the spread because then
Then they would lose, so they're going to make a
ah
capture.
and stack.
And Black can't place, or they lose. And they don't have enough time to make any capture spreads.
Yeah.
Black
So he
drops and
just ends it.
essentially forfeits. And so alion02 wins. That was
Maybe
a wild game. I do think back on 46, instead of dropping at F1, I think he needed to bring that capstone down onto D3 and go wild because it didn't look good for him. Granted, they were very low on time, so that's going to be, it's too hard to think that far ahead, but I think that that's the moment it needed to happen on 46, maybe on 45 in order to have enough time for it. But
I think
anyway,
Abyss was definitely better until something happened in the end game, but
it's
it
hard
will
to say
require more
where
analysis.
pinpoint exactly what that was. But
Yeah,
it might have been when they were super low on time at 35. You know, it might have been those
maybe.
that series of moves that really shut it down. But fantastic game, well played to both players, and congratulations to alion02 for winning the first ever Dragon Cup TAC tournament. As the 2023 Dragon Cup, he now has the title of the Dragon, which is just fun. And he gets the special Discord role that is just an emoji of a dragon. So that's fun. It's the only role that is just an emoji. So yeah,
Will it
awesome.
overwrite his world champion
No, his color will
title?
still be the other color of the TAC champion. That is slightly higher on the list of roles, but you can still see it if you look at his roles. But awesome game. That was a really tight one, really close. Really demonstrated some really strong play out of both players. And are the number 1 and number 2 ranked players in the world. You know, because we have these millions of TAC players, and these guys, number 1 and number 2, just really showing us how it's done. So congratulations again to alion02, and well played to both players. Well played to Abyss. Really, really solid play, especially on such low time there in several points in that game, making those great moves. I really liked a couple of these moves that stood out to me. Like that A4 minus move was just really fun. And a lot of other things that popped up throughout that game. And thank you to Will for joining me and providing such excellent analysis from expert player.
Thank you to you as well for inviting me.
Yeah, and so that is all for today. Thanks for watching, everybody. Be sure to check out the description below for all things TAC, especially the TAC Discord server, which is where you can find all sorts of TAC resources like strategy guides and people to play with, whether that be right here on playtac.com or asynchronously through the Discord server itself. You can play all sorts of people, and maybe even one of these guys, maybe even me, maybe even somebody you've never even heard of before. All these different things, lots of great fun out there, so be sure to check that out. And until next time, have a great day and happy tacking.